Hey, it's Renette, Bespoke Mentor. In this video, I want to tell you a little story about how it came about that I'm an entrepreneur. It's probably something one becomes, I almost want to say, born to. I studied entrepreneurship at university when I was in my mid-40s it was a new subject they launched, and they wanted us to test the program. But I was already a well-established entrepreneur at the time. But in the studies, they said that people who have difficulties in childhood, sort of trauma and unhappiness, tend to be more likely to become entrepreneurs than people who are wonderfully secure and supported. And those who are more secure and supported become what they call intrapreneurs, which is somebody who does developing things and exploring things and doing things, but within the safety of a company. So I found that quite interesting because I did have a rather interesting childhood. And Johan, my husband, who was more secure in his childhood, is a brilliant intrapreneur. He's not got that whole daredevil thing that entrepreneurs have, so they say anyway. So what happened is I was making candles as a hobby. I was doing all kinds of things as a hobby. Made marionettes, fairy marionettes, and sewed, made pottery. You name it, I did it. But the candles, specifically sand candles, seemed to have a niche. So I made 3 for the children's school fete, and they were the only things that sold at the fete. And while I was chatting to a friend who had a shop in Durban, she said to me, "Oh, my baby, you make candles, sand candles." And I said to her, "Well, I made these 3. Remember, I've been making candles since I was 13. And she said, "I want 100. So I went off and made 100 candles. I'll show you, not this particular one, but this is a square one. But I made them round. It was a little plastic bowl in sea sand, and made her 100 candles. And then after a bit, I thought maybe another shop wants some as well. And so I started seeing a few shops, and eventually I had 7 shops in Durban that had them. And then when we moved to Johannesburg, I acquired 7 more shops, and I kept stocking my Durban shops. And that was the beginning. I was always wanting to be at home for the children, and especially for our son who had learning problems. And I needed to help him make it through school, which we did, he and I. And I only closed the candle business recently in 2016. This is one of my, if I can pick it up, one of my last candles. It's a giant, mini giant. I have a very big one in the entrance hall that was my first one ever, which is now 30 years old. So for 28 years, I made sand candles, and in between, what I really love doing is public speaking and, of course, mentoring, holding workshops, coaching people, and teaching them the principles of life and how to live a more inspired and fulfilling life. And again, the public speaking was launched by my son, the very one who had a learning problem. He was at the nursery with me, and I was buying herbs. And the nursery owner was saying to me that he just can't get a very well-known personality in the herb industry here in South Africa, who's now deceased, to speak because she doesn't do public speaking. She didn't in those days. And my son piped up and said, "My mother can talk," because I had done some public speaking in Durban as well. And he said to me, "Would I hold a talk?" I said, "Yes, of course I would." So I did my first Johannesburg talk to an audience of over 100 people. The space could hold 50. And people were hanging in at the windows and wanting to hear more. And they kept writing to the nursery and phoning them for about 3 weeks after the talk to ask me more things and to get to know more things and so on. And from there on, I did a large number of talks, mostly about what we called in those days personal development, and mostly, yeah, to companies. And I really love that. And that's what I plan on getting going again now that I'm back in Johannesburg. Well, Pretoria, but Pretoria, Johannesburg's more or less like one place. And I intend taking my entrepreneurship seriously big online as a mentor. I look forward to seeing and hearing how it came about that you are an entrepreneur. I started by accident. I see you in the next video. Go lightly.